So we begin with our invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is titled The Meeting of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev. And this is beginning with text number 29, sorry. Shri Nanda Uvacha Ahote Devaki Putra Kangsena Bhavaho Hataha Ekavashishta Varajya Kanyasapi Divam Gata. Repeat it one more time I want it. Shri Nanda Uvacha Ahote Devaki Putra Kangsena Bhavaho Hataha Eka Vashishta Varajya Kanya Sapi Divam Gata. Nanda Maharaj said, alas, King Kamsa has killed so many of your children born of Devaki, and your one daughter, the youngest child of all, has entered the heavenly planets. Purport. When Vasudeva understood from Nanda Maharaj that the mysteries of Krishna's birth and his having been exchanged with Yashoda's daughter was yet undisclosed, he was happy that things were going on nicely. By saying that Vasudeva's daughter, his youngest child, had gone to the heavenly planets, Nanda Maharaj indicated that he did not know that this daughter was born of Yashoda, and that Vasudeva had exchanged her with Krishna. Thus the doubts of Vasudeva were dispelled. Okay, so we'll first start with this verse here. So there are different readings into the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jiva Goswami describes in his Gopal Champu that during the entire pastime of Krishna, there was never a point where Nanda Maharaj thought Krishna to be the son of Vasudeva. So according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the pastimes is that Krishna was born to Yashoda, and the female child, the goddess Durga, was born to Mother Yashoda. And in that dark room, when Vasudeva came, all he saw was the female child, and he took that child back to Vrindavan, back to Mathura. Another explanation is that Vasudeva, he passed over the turbulent Yamuna. He was carrying little baby child in a basket on his head, and the water became so turbulent that the child fell into the water. And as the child fell into the water, he was frantic. This is the child whom he had gone through so many hardships just to wait for this child's appearance. He had so many children that were killed prior to this baby to appear, and then the baby falls into the water and is not seen. So he's frantically trying to reach this child, and he picks up Krishna and puts Krishna back in the basket. And it's described that actually Krishna has these two forms. He has the form of himself that resides in Vrindavan, and he has the form Vasudeva Krishna, who resides elsewhere outside of Vrindavan, such as Mathura. And that the Puranas state that this Krishna in Vrindavan never leaves Vrindavan. He actually always stays there. So later in that same body of water, when Akrura came to take Krishna away, he said, before coming to that border, he said, "I want to take a bath." And he went into that water, and it said that Vrindavan Krishna stayed there, and Vasudeva Krishna came out of the water. So you have these two different ways of reading the Bhagavatam. One is that it's kind of hidden, that Krishna just comes from Mathura, and the other way is also given by our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada included, that that Krishna was already there in Vrindavan when Vasudeva appeared with this child, and they merged into one. And so here we find that Vasudeva, he is feeling pleasantly that he's feeling happy that it's unknown to Nanda Maharaj. Later in the next chapter, it's described that as we see, Vasudeva gives some type of foreboding, some kind of warning. And Nanda Maharaj, because he is a Vaishya, not a businessman, but he's a farm. He's like he has this royal blood because they both come from the same family line. They're both their grandfather was King Devamida, and King Devamida had two wives, and one was a Vaishya, and one was a Kshatriya. And so the son born to the Kshatriya, his name was Sura, and the son born to the Vaishya, his name was Parjanya. And then Parjanya is the father of Nanda, and Sura is the father of Vasudeva. So they're like cousins, or they say in India, cousin brothers. We don't make such distinction of cousin. You just call your cousin your brother because you're very close. So Vasudeva, he was very pleased that Nanda Maharaj did not understand this, that this was actually, according to his understanding, that Krishna had been exchanged, that he had taken the daughter of Nanda Maharaj, and he had left his son Krishna. Prabhupada makes a point that the Kshatriyas, they're very clever. They're very they have a heightened level of intelligence. Like, for example, I don't know if any of you in this room raise your hand if you know Tukaram Prabhu. Anybody know Tukaram Prabhu in Laguna? Any hands raised? I see. So I have this experience that if you speak to Tukaram Prabhu on the phone, he is like a Sherlock Holmes. He's got such a
yes, we know him.
Okay, yeah, he's like Sherlock Holmes. Like he with tiny little hints, his intelligence is figuring out. It's like he could probably tell you, like, what's happening outside your window just by a little. He has this great intelligence, where he can almost as if he were a mystic psychic. And so Nanda Maharaj, in the same way, he in the 29th or 30th verse of the next chapter, he considers that Vasudeva, he must have been like a great mystic, a great psychic. He can see the future. But this was actually the great difference between the wit and intelligence of a Kshatriya like Vasudeva and more of the simple intelligence of the farmer or the king of the farmers. Vasudeva has that, Nanda Maharaj has that royal blood as well. And so Nanda Maharaj saw that after these foreboding words that come up, that yes, terrible things did happen in Vrindavan, in what was it, Gokula at the time. What place was it that Putana appeared? Who remembers? And after that, they moved several times. He considered that, oh, Vasudeva, he must be a mystic, must be a psychic, must be due to some austerities. But Prabhupada said, no, it is due to, he has this great deal of sophisticated intelligence. So just a little overview. Krishna, Kamsa, he was driving his sister, his dear sister-in-law to the marriage of her husband Vasudeva. He was driving her home. This is what you do in Vedic culture, is to help that the bride not feel great separation from the family. One of the family members takes her to her new home. And as he's serving Devaki in this way, a voice comes from the sky. What does the voice say? I think Evan is going to share with us. What did the voice say?
Fool! You fool!
You are a fool.
The eighth child of your sister will kill you. Does anybody know why this advice? Why are they tipping him off? Why the devas tipping him off?
It is maybe to accelerate Krishna's appearance.
That is the answer for why Nanda Maharaj, not Nanda Maharaj, but Narada Muni later spoke with Kamsa. That's the answer for that particular tipping off, but not for this specific pastime. Anybody else want to give it a try?
Krishna comes to kill the demons, so he's provoking them to do things to bring them to his wrath. Can you hear it?
Yes. So they were quite disturbed about this current situation where what is Kamsa doing at the time? He is serving the Vaishnavas. He was serving Devaki. He was driving the chariot. This is a very menial or low service, especially for a king. Like you hear the pastime where Lord Chaitanya, he goes and he's traveling through South India and he sees this Brahmana and he's got Bhagavad Gita. Let's see. I don't have Bhagavad Gita behind me, but he has Bhagavad Gita and he's reading it. And he's practically just reading it upside down. He doesn't know how to read properly. And the other brahmanas are laughing at him. But Lord Chaitanya sees that when he is reading Bhagavad Gita, which he can barely read properly, he's shedding all these tears. These are tears of love. And so Lord Chaitanya, he inquires from that Brahmana. And the Brahmana sees that, okay, this is a person who is inquiring not to insult or make fun of me, but he's just a genuine inquiry. So he inquires from that Brahmana, I see, it seems that you're not able to read, but you're feeling great emotion whenever you are looking at this book, Bhagavad Gita. And he said, to think, to see that my Lord, who he is the Lord of everything, Lord of the universe, Lord of the demigods, and he is becoming the chariot driver of his devotee. It brings me to tears. How much love the Lord has for his devotees. It just brings me to tears. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya says, well, you have actually understood Bhagavad Gita. Although he could barely read, he was the one of those in the audience that actually could understand the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Let's go to the next verse. We have a few verses here. Nunam adrishta nishto yam adrishta paramo janaha adrishtam atmanas tattvam yo vedana samuhyati. Every man is certainly controlled by destiny, which determines the results of one's fruitive activities. In other words, one has a son or a daughter because of unseen destiny. Adrishta, drishta means to see. So adrishta means unseen. And whether the son or daughter is no longer present, this is also due to unseen destiny. Destiny is the ultimate controller of everyone. And one who knows this is never bewildered. So Kamsa, he heard this voice from the sky. It was the demigods. They were afraid that Kamsa is serving the Vaishnavas, and in that service, maybe Krishna will be little too lenient and kind to Kamsa and maybe not kill him, which was the desire of the demigods, to rid the planet of this evil personality. And he immediately imprisoned Vasudeva and Devaki. Now, what is the definition of a demon? There's a definition, I believe it's in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a definition. The Daitya. Anybody want it? Evanji.
Demons that disturb others.
Demons. They do not accept the aspect of a supreme controller. They find themselves contrary to that there is a supreme Lord, or there's God, there's a controller behind everything. So one may ask, why did Kamsa just put Vasudeva and Devaki in different cells? The reason is given that he wanted to show that he can conquer this destiny. Not that he will avoid it, but rather he will destroy that. He will disturb it. Later, when this female child appeared, because Vasudeva went and he took, apparently took he took the female child from Yashoda and brought her to, and Kamsa, he was expecting a son, and he had been dashing the children to the ground. He was very taken surprise. He was quite surprised that there was a female child, because although the words were given that the eighth child, it was not gendered, he considered that it must have been a son that would appear, that would come and fight him and kill him, not a daughter. And then he also thought, well, the demigods, they must be liars as well. We thought that devatas never lie, but it seems like they are lying. He said the child that will kill you is already born elsewhere. And also he was at the time a great worshiper of of Durga. So he was quite surprised to see her. And because of this, he did feel great regret, because he thought, I killed my sister's children all just because of the lies of the demigods. I killed her, the 6 Garbhasuras. As we heard before, that they were previously the sons of Marichi who had made some insult, and then they took birth as the sons of which demon? That was Kaliyav, not Kaliyav, what's the name? Kalanemi. And then this was their final birth. They're taking birth as the sons of Devaki. But Kalanemi was actually the previous incarnation of Kamsa. So Kamsa is actually killing his own sons. They are originally the sons of Marichi. Marichi is considered to be the representative of the mind. And so these 6 sons represent different elements of the mind: lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, madness, and illusion. And so just like to make a place for Krishna to appear, we have to get rid of those qualities. And then we have to become established in devotional service. So Balaram represents service. So you get rid of the 6, and then Balaram comes, he purifies the atmosphere. He purifies the atmosphere in our heart, just like he sanctified the womb of Devaki. And then Krishna appears. So how do we get Krishna in our heart? We get you go to this stage of anartha nivritti, become established in that pure loving service, and Krishna will gladly come. So here he's speaking about this adrishta, this unseen destiny. Purport: Nanda Maharaj consoled his younger brother Vasudeva by saying that destiny is ultimately responsible for everything. Vasudeva should not be unhappy that his many children had been killed, or that the last child, the daughter, had gone to the heavenly planets. Now, destiny is not a very popular notion in our Western mindset, but one should understand that this is different from fatalism. This is not. Destiny means that you have no control of the results of your actions. How your actions, how how the world will play out, but you do have result over your actions. So Kamsa, Vasudeva, he argued for the protection of his child, and he used this term destiny. We'll find this term destiny being used many times in this pastime. And so Kamsa was about to kill his sister because he heard this voice that was taunting him to be not to be a servant of Devaki, but to be a harasser and abuser of Devaki. And Vasudeva used this term. He said, well, if you're destined to be killed, then you should just see that as your destiny. Now, couldn't Kamsa also just say, well, if your child is destined to be killed by me, then you should accept it? Could you just say, throw it back at him? Sometimes we may throw philosophy back at somebody, avoid some responsibility of our actions. We just throw it back at them. And similarly, there is you have Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra. His sons were causing great havoc, and they are breaking the laws of Dharma. And Duryodhana said, it is destiny. And Vidura did not accept that. He did not accept. He said, oh, who am I? I'm just a small little being, little soul, and it's destiny. So destiny does not mean that we give up our duty. Destiny is how we take destiny, thinking about how we respond to the inevitable. But it's not a matter of avoidance of duty. Yeah, okay, you know, say I burn the sweet rice and I say, oh, it was destiny. It was destiny. Or if something's happening like that, that's maybe even after the fact. But even during the fact, we see that Kamsa, he didn't have to harass Devaki. He could have changed his actions. Our same thing with Dhritarashtra. He did not have to support Duryodhana. He could have changed his actions. So destiny is not used, but the concept of destiny is not used as an avoidance of duty. We have Angelika wrote, I'm curious to know whether these personalities know the previous identities in past birth. Was the demon aware that he was killing his own children incarnated in a different setting? Were these children aware of their own symbolism? Or is it only known to the Lord and great devotees like Shukadeva Goswami? So yeah, in the past time, it does not reveal that they're knowledgeable of these things. It's as you say, great devotees, the Lord, devotees like Shukadeva Goswami, other sages, they may be aware of these things, but these personalities don't have direct knowledge of it. So you have these basically two readings of Bhagavatam. One is that Nanda Maharaj is aware, seems to be aware, and the other one is that Nanda Maharaj is completely unaware, and he only sees Krishna as his son. And for example, when Garga Muni is Gargacharya, he is the priest of the Yadus. And so there was this fear that, okay, if the priest of the Yadus does a ceremony for a child somewhere else, then that child must be Krishna, the son of Yadu, the Yadava known as Vasudeva. But because Kamsa was going on a rampage, he was killing children all over. Nanda Maharaj decided to take it very cautiously, and he performed a very secret, quiet ceremony, the name-giving ceremony by Gargacharya. Okay, so Nanda Maharaj consoled his younger brother, Vasudeva, by saying that destiny is ultimately responsible for everything. Vasudeva should not be unhappy that his many children had been killed, that his last child, the daughter, had gone to the heavenly planets. Next verse. Shri Vasudeva Vacha Karovai Varshiko Dato Ragye Drishta Vayam Cha Vaha Nehastheyam Bahutitam Shanti Upatascha Gokule. Vasudeva said to Nanda Maharaj, my dear brother, since you have paid the annual taxes to Kamsa, and have also seen me, do not stay at this place for many days. It's better that you return to Gokula, since I know that there may be disturbances there. This is right here. This is the hint where Nanda Maharaj is going to consider that maybe Vasudeva is a great mystic. Next verse. Shri Shukavacha Iti Nandayo Gopa Proktaste Sarirenayahu Anubhir Anaduyaktas yuktais tam anugyapya gokulam. Shukadeva Goswami said, after Vasudeva had advised Nanda Maharaj in this way, Nanda Maharaj and his associates, the cowherd men, took permission of Vasudeva, yoked their bulls to the bullock carts, and started riding for Gokula. Purport. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 10th canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Meeting of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva. That story about the Brahmana who had difficulty reading, I once told it. There was a gentleman who was visiting the temple office in Dallas, and he was speaking very much according to the philosophy of Shripad Sankacharya. I am God, you are God, it is all one. There is, there is no God but everything, God has lost his identity. Everything is just the supreme, nothing. There is no idea of servant.
Did you call the police on him?
It was an older Indian gentleman. I had told him this story of the Brahmana who was reading Bhagavad Gita, and he also started crying. And so Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned that when he was speaking about the people of this world, he mentioned that most people are innocent. It is that their leaders are bad. So he was mostly seemingly just parroting something he had heard from some guru. But you can see that he felt this affection as well. He had some attraction and affection for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he was just, it was just some philosophy he had heard. But underneath it all, he was already having some attraction as a devotee of the Lord. Just underneath the surface a little bit. So the purports are quite short here. So I'd like to open the floor if there are any reflections, comments, questions.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it was the first verse that we spoke of. Yeah. So it says that Nanda Maharaj says, your one daughter entered the heavenly planets, so you shouldn't be worried. And I was just kind of curious, why is that? I mean, a lot of times devotees talk about the heavenly planets as not being the goal. And so,
Yeah. You know, he's speaking specifically about Durga.
yes, but Nanda Maharaj,
that's her abode,
right, but Nanda Maharaj doesn't really know that, right?
I know it was, I think, seen in front of everybody that goddess Durga appeared and flew into the heavens, and that he's referring to it directly, not that she had died, but rather she had flown in her form up into the heavens. So the reading seems to indicate that's what he was aware of that. Yeah, that a female child appeared, assumed the form of Durga, and flew up into the sky after calling Kamsa a fool again.
How do we know that he was aware that it was actually Durga Devi?
And she manifested her form as Durga. So
how do we know that Nanda Maharaj is aware that she is Durga?
It doesn't give any indication, but it doesn't give the indication that he's familiar with what had happened.
Okay.
He doesn't say like, it's sad that your this 8th child also died and gone to heaven. He doesn't speak in that kind of term, but yes, Prabhu.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
The story is very complicated, a lot of details. And we were listening to Radhanath Swami explaining that there are the pastimes and the story details, and then there's the principle. There's what we unpack and what we learn and how to apply it in our life. And he was saying that one of the things that's illustrated here is that a demoniac person, godless person, attempts to manipulate the circumstances, change things to be the way he wants it. And then he contrasted that, a devotee is not necessarily interested in changing what's happening, but is changing his own response to it.
Yeah.
And an appropriate response to whatever happens is, okay, Krishna, I don't understand this. I would not prefer it. I didn't expect it, but I will be grateful for how you're doing everything. You know what you're doing. You're acting with a loving hand. How can I serve you under this circumstance? He said that was a principle that we can take away from the complicated story. That if we want to respond as a devotee, we'll say, Lord, thank you for everything as it is. Now, how can I serve you? What would you like me to do? I will do as you like. Kind of an interesting, life lesson that we can try to follow. Really, sometimes when somebody like that speaks, I think, oh yeah, okay, got it. Otherwise,
The philosophy of understanding that there is a higher control also is liberating. Because in the materialistic mindset, if you succeed, it's all because of your endeavors, and you are meant to enjoy all the credit. And if you fail, it's because you're a failure, and you're not actually, if you're not exercising your abilities properly. The only reason you fail is because you're a failure. And this understanding that there's destiny, there's things that you cannot control, and that way we don't have to lament, we don't have to be overly our consciousness drawn into the situations that we can't change. But we can understand that, okay, I can't, this is destiny, this is something I could not do. Like, for example, if someone's tone deaf, doesn't matter how hard they try, they're not going to become a Mozart. It's a recognition of limitations. It's a recognition of there's some order to this world. There are many people that are just as smart, just as talented as Bill Gates, but only he gets that big check. Because he has some destiny, has some karma from his previous life for things to roll a certain way. And so it can help one develop some detachment from trying to, being disturbed that things aren't going exactly how they plan. So that's one idea there.
Destiny is kind of impersonal. And here where Krishna's keeping a low profile as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the characters refer to destiny as some kind of force or some kind of arrangement by a higher power. But then Srila Prabhupada and Bhagavad Gita explains that how wonderful is Krishna, that the peace formula, the way to remain peaceful and joyful and grateful in any circumstance, is we understand Krishna's in control, that Krishna loves us, and that we're supposed to please him. That those three components are there. And Krishna is so wonderful. It's nice to know. Kadamba Maharaj was saying just recently at the Brooklyn Temple, he knows everything. He's managing everything, and you know what? He's sentient. He's a person, and he has your best interest at heart. He loves you, and therefore.
We have two questions here. One statement. Mozart was deaf. Was he born deaf?
No.
No.
as far as I remember, Beethoven was the one who was deaf. Mozart was okay, I think.
Neither were born deaf. You know, they had. So if you're tone deaf, or maybe if you're 4'9", you're probably not going to become an all-star basketball champ. There's certain limitations that one may have. That's we're talking about destiny here. And Kartik had this question, and we're just about out here, but he said, thank you for this. He said, from a moral perspective, did Vasudeva ever feel or express any remorse, doubt about swapping the babies? How can this act be itself justified in various religious texts? So that's a question we would have to do a little investigation, but I'm sure the answer is Chaitanya Charana. He is somebody who has probably answered this question quite elaborately online. So if we go to the Spiritual Scientist, I don't know if anybody knows exactly his website. Let's see if I can find it. Spiritual Scientist. Chaitanya Charana comes up, and he's answered thousands of questions, and within there you can find that this question is going to be covered. All right, anything else? I see Adi Purusha's hand.
I'll go back, just one response. There are many ways you could respond to that, but the idea that in Leela, in these pastimes with Krishna, there might be laughter, there might be anger, there might be something that resembles remorse, but it's all Krishna conscious, and it's sweet, and it's without inebriety. So, apparently, like in an actor on a stage, he may theatrically exhibit, Prabhupada would sometimes exhibit anger, but he wasn't overwhelmed by anger, and it wasn't anything selfish. So there might be something that looks like remorse, but it's not mundane, hopeless, selfish remorse. We might regret that we can serve Krishna better, and it's very sweet. There's love there. All glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Wonderful class. Thank you so much. I'm very satisfied to hear from you. More and more. We love you.
It's great philosophy.
All glories to Prabhupada.
When there was this anti-cult campaign in the 70s against the devotees, and there was a court case. So, and then one way of looking at it was that, okay, it's coming from Krishna, let's wrap everything up, let's accept our destiny and just go. But then the devotees still fought the case, and they won the case, knowing that it's a test coming from Krishna. So we still accept that it's coming from Krishna, but that doesn't mean necessarily that we have to quit and accept the defeat right away, right? Is that right, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu?
Yeah, destiny is not an excuse to avoid duty. It is a way to respond to in an unattached way to situations that you cannot change. But if there's a duty, like a parent's duty to protect a child, or the disciple's duty to speak on behalf of the school.
Thank you very much. Grantarat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu Ki Jai, everybody on this call Ki Jai. Love you all. Thank you very much. Evan Prabhu, will we get some darshan?
Yes. Yes. And I just put a verse in the chat. Sorry.
We'll take a look.